You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the #1 resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms. Youngpreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. As always, I appreciate you being with us. You could be anywhere in the world right now, and you have decided to spend some time bettering yourself with myself and today's guest, Jake Jorgovan, who is the creator and founder of, which I think are the same things when I just said that, of Lead Cookie, and he is also a blogger over at jakejorgovan.com. And we're going to delve into what he does and hopefully some applications on how you can potentially implement it into starting or growing your business, which I think it's a potentially under-targeted and poorly done area in the business that he works in. So welcome to the show, Jake.
Thanks for having me on here.
I love to kind of break down the barriers for people. Yeah, we all put up these excuses when we're starting our businesses on, so and so did it easier because they had the silver spoon, or this person was, the smartest person in their country when they were growing up. That's why they're successful and I'm not. If we were to roll back to your early days of growing up, what did entrepreneurship look like for you? Was it always something like, hey, I'm always going to be an entrepreneur, my parents are entrepreneurs, and stuff like that? Or was it something that you more or less stumbled across later in life?
Yeah, so I have basically been self-employed since I was 19. Was when I kind of quit my last job and have been in some sense working for myself since then. You like to use the term entrepreneur, but in reality it was kind of like sprints of entrepreneurship mixed with a lot of consulting and freelancing kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so neither of my parents were entrepreneurs, but honestly, I just had this I've talked about this in other interviews, but I was a bit of a hippie kind of stoner when I was younger, and I had this whole mentality of the world is this crazy system, and I don't want to go work for someone else, and so I'm going to go pave my own path. And somehow that evolved into me just continuing to figure out ways to work for myself, which at times has been awesome and the freedom has been great, and at times it has sucked and I haven't gotten paid for months. So it's been a crazy journey. I'm 28 now, so guess going on 9 years of this entrepreneurial journey.
And so, the highs and lows, and I guess particularly in kind of the consulting and freelancing space. If we were to delve into that, because I'm sure there's a few people who are doing that at the moment and experiencing some of the headaches. What are some of the biggest things that happened that you didn't foresee, going in as new to the industry? What are some of the kind of learning curves you might have got from that might help some people out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, there was this point where I had this massive failure. And so basically my kind of the story is I had this agency for a period of time and actually grew it up to one point we had 8 full-time employees. We were doing almost $1 million a year in revenue, and we were working with some really big customers doing video production and everything. Eventually sold that to my partner and left for reasons, and that kind of led to this sprint of what I guess was about 4 to 5 years of kind of freelancing and consulting. And in there, at one point, I was just kind of generalist marketing, and I just kind of kept playing with my positioning and toying around, and basically I just kind of dropped my eye off of the business for a bit. And at one point, basically in the span of about 45 days, I went from having 4 retainer customers with over 10,000 a monthly recurring revenue to no customers at all. And it was just kind of due to this kind of vague value proposition, the way I wasn't really delivering enough value to my customers ultimately. And I had gotten really good at kind of getting into these engagements, but I basically was dropping the ball, and I also had no pipeline of new customers ready in the instance that these customers churned. So it was just kind of this period where, you know, I guess the big mistakes in that I learned were to always have a pipeline of customers, because you
Mm.
never know what happens, even if you've got that monthly recurring, and just to make sure that you are delivering value, and the most important thing, in a way that's meaningful to your customers. It's easy to convince yourself you're creating value, but your customers need to be seeing ROI and like actually measurable metrics, and I wasn't doing that at the time. So that led to a huge flop and months of not getting paid, and it was a rough patch. So
Yeah, it's it's such an interesting one because a lot of people that I talk to who are on, say, some sort of, they got reoccurring revenue and retainers with different clients, and uh, it's a weird metric because people are measuring their business off that. Uh, and I think that's where you kind of maybe drop the ball. It's like, oh, I'm at $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, and I'm comfortable now, rather than going, hey, I've still got this product or service that I need to supply for these people to actually keep that. It's not like this guaranteed, cool, they signed up, that's the next year sorted, they're just going to pay me that, and I'm happy days. Um, Rolling back, you're saying, and I think it's also a good probably learning point. You had a business, 8 staff, $1 million $1 million a year revenue that you're bringing in. To give the aspiring or new entrepreneur a bit of insight, what was did you have like a diminishing return as you got higher in the revenue? Was it like, or did, I mean, I see people selling, say, digital products online, and they've got, um, let's say a ClickFunnels account and a CRM, some Facebook ads, and then they don't have a lot of kind of other overhead expenses. Sure, there's other ones, but they've got a few baseline ones, and making one sale versus making 10 sales, their profit margins massively increase. When you were offering like a service-based system, was it like a rate of diminishing return, that the more clients you got, the more staff you had to get, and the less per person, or was it like an improvement in efficiency for that?
yeah, so the business was basically, we were a video production agency, and we focused on content for live event productions.
Yeah.
So whenever you go out and you see an LED wall at a touring concert or a corporate event, we would create all the content that would go on those LED walls of those projection screens. So that was our business, and it basically did a lot of things wrong. I mean, we did a lot of things right, and I learned how to sell, and we had really good quality work, so we kept getting more customers and just kept growing. But ultimately, we were not scalable. The business was tied to the expertise of a few key team members. So, it was completely opposite of the whole built to sell mentality or the E-Myth mentality, where it was really tied to us as the individuals. And so that was like one key problem. And it sounds crazy, like, oh, we had a rough almost $1 million a year in revenue. Our expenses were crazy. Like, I didn't make that much money. Like, it was ridiculous. But like, we worked so hard, and I think at the peak I was pulling 3,500 a month from the business, and I think I got like a bonus one year as well. So it's like this business was growing, but our expenses were growing. We invested all this money into like this nice office and stuff, which was probably more than we needed. And so there's just like all these things we did that ultimately, when I look back at it, I was like, we worked so hard for so little pay or so little profit. And so there's just so many things out of that, and it just ultimately was never going to be scalable. And so there's just a lot of lessons learned out of that one.
And kind of just to delve it, what if you were future you now, going back and talking to the current you starting that business, what would you have done? Was there things that you could have done differently to make it a more of a lifestyle business that was going to make you a decent income, or was that would your advice be don't do it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we started off the business, and we actually did. We were doing like live recordings for concerts and stuff like that, and so we'd get hired by to go into all these colleges and film, like their plays or their recitals, and or go to like a venue and film these concerts, and that was like turnkey. Like we could have one of those. We could have people run a show, and you could pretty well hire people and go in and do that. And so it was a product like that we could pretty well do. And where we got off track was we started getting into this creative, we started getting into animation, and we just kept taking more and more custom work because we were fun and we liked learning and challenging ourselves. And so because of that, we eventually shifted away from the live events. And I often look back and I'm like, well, gosh, like I could have just productized the live events, focused on that, just marketed that, and that could have been something that ran without us and wasn't dependent on the expertise. But we were just so excited and we loved learning new skills, and we were picking up animation and we started learning 3D and all this stuff. And so we just kept getting really good at this stuff, and we were selling our expertise and our
Mm.
abilities as opposed to this product, which we were like, oh, we don't want to do those live recordings, those aren't fun. And
Yeah.
so it's like we moved away from like a product into basically consulting. We never realized that in retrospect, where I was like, oh wow, where we actually started was probably better off than where we ended up.
Yeah, yeah. So I always use the kind of toilet paper analogy. Like everyone's going to sell toilet paper at some stage in their business career. It might not seem glamorous, it might not seem great, but kind of there's a large enough market that need it out there. Whereas a lot of the times I think we all go, all right, I've done toilet paper. Why don't I start rolling out toilets and toilet cleaner and whole bathroom renovations? And then they just get so lost in the, not necessarily lost, but it's important to obviously upskill yourself. But like you say, you didn't do the kind of the e-myth side of things or the built to scale side of things. Whereas if if you got hit by the bus, things stopped. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Exactly.
I think some really good learnings there. But take us from you know drop drop the ball on the consulting side of things with those four clients. How did you get to where you are and what you're doing, and give us a bit of a background about what you're doing now?
Yeah. So basically, the between there, I left the agency. I did kind of freelancing consulting, digital marketing for several years. And then at some point, I started taking a swing at trying to start real businesses again. I had a failure with the first one where we ended up getting up to like 25,000 monthly recurring revenue, and then turned a month to punch it off and just wasn't working. So had some like swings at businesses in there, but it turned into a lot of it into consulting and really just kind of on like sales consulting, which I ultimately realized what I was really good at, the sales and marketing side of stuff. And then at some point, I just kind of committed to the consulting for a while and did that for a couple of years and had a good life, and it was going well and I was delivering value and I was happy. And at some point I just had a conversation with my wife and I was like, I think I'm ready to start something again. I'm like, I think I've got the skills and I'm in a good mental spot and I'm ready to do this. So I'd done like tons of attempts at businesses throughout the consulting, but they're always just kind of like get an idea, excited, go do something for a couple of weeks and then fail.
Shiny object.
Um, yeah, yeah. And so this was one where I was just like intentionally like, I'm going to build a business. Let me go through and like build some ideas. Let me really like put these through the ringer, think through each of them, try to model them out real quick. And in the course of about like 2 to 3 weeks, I went from having a bunch of ideas to deciding like what initially started as like LinkedIn marketing agency was the concept. I was like, all these people do Facebook marketing and like all this stuff, but I don't see too many people specializing in LinkedIn. And so that was where it started. And so basically then I went out and I researched every tactic I could find on LinkedIn and just learned everything I could, found all the thought leaders, the people selling info products, went through those and just learned everything I could about LinkedIn. And basically then, picked these tactics that I thought were the most powerful, and I started testing them out on myself in my consulting business. And I started getting customers and leads like crazy. And I was like, this is awesome. This is working really well. And so basically, that's when I kicked off what has now become Lead Cookie, where we started to basically manage our customers' LinkedIn accounts, do outreach for them, and then use some tactics to ramp up traffic to their profiles. So it was basically taking the two top LinkedIn tactics that I found and turning them into a done-for-you service for other people.
Nice. And did you roll that out to your current clients that you're consulting for?
Yeah, so the way that I actually got it started was crazy. I went to from 0 to 5,000 monthly recurring revenue in the first week, and it's because basically I have a CRM of about 300, and I think at the time it was like 360 people that I had had sales conversations or had been customers in the past, few years of my consulting. So I was like, well, I'm gonna just go through there and see who I think's a good fit for this, and we're gonna pitch it out to them. And so that's what I did. And literally that first week, just sold the first 5,000 of business, and kept going from there. Worked through that whole entire list, and that probably got us to like our first 10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and learned a lot. Not all those people were good fits, but that's kind of how we got started.
Was it not good fits in the sense that they didn't have necessarily a product that could be well marketed on, or service that could be well marketed on LinkedIn, or expectations were in a different space between what you were putting forward and what they were thinking they were getting? Like, how did you kind of fine tune that target avatar a bit?
Yeah, so that definitely took quite a bit of learning, and the thing that we've learned now, and so like who our avatar is now is we want B2B customers, people who are selling B2B. Their average sale is over $10,000. So like if they sign a customer, it's going to be worth a good amount of money to them, and they need to have a strong value proposition. And that's like a really kind of like vague thing, but it's like very important to us. Is that we look at them and we're like, do you have a defined market and like a clear value proposition that's going to benefit them? Because what we found is we had some generalists that we signed on, and these generalists would just get like no response at all. And then we'd have these people that would come on and they'd say, we work with, blue collar companies to help them automate manual processes. So like super niche, super focused, and they're getting great results, and they've been with us for a long time and they're getting good conversion from this. So learning that the generalists kind of like didn't work out, or just that like basically you can take all these different people, put them through the exact same process and the exact same framework of scripts, and get drastically different results. And the only difference is like their value proposition and what they're actually selling. And so that was a big learning for us. We've had to basically learn as a team who this works well for and who this doesn't. And as a result, we probably turn away 85% of the leads we get for our business.
It's a good position to be in, because I don't know, North American, what is it, riches in the niches.
Yep.
That although people are like, oh, you're turning away 85%, like the people who are going to stay with you are the ones who are going to be like, oh, I'm giving him X amount of dollars per month, and he's giving me 10 qualified leads that are over $10,000. If I don't know, do they convert them themselves? Like, is that part of the process? They jump on the phone and
Yeah, so basically we take it to the point where someone responds and engages with them on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And at that point we hand it over to them to basically kind of convert and close. So that's been another learning for us, is we've have to kind of sometimes teach people how to sell, or if someone sucks at selling, that's also a problem. So there's been a lot of things we've learned on there, and that's the interesting thing about lead gen is, if they'll blame the bad leads even if it's their fault on like not selling properly. So
yeah. And I guess once they are trained and hopefully more bulletproof, or they've at least improved their conversion rates, if you give them 10 qualified leads and they convert even a couple of them, then they're more than happy, versus the output, and they don't have to do it. They don't have to hire someone in-house to start doing this stuff. And if that happens month on month, then happy days. The business keeps growing, and you're going to get some of them who refer other people, and it's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think there's still there's obviously a lot of people who personally try and do what you do poorly. as in like they try and do it for themselves, and it's the spam of freaking LinkedIn of people just putting out crap. But I mean that works well as well for you, because if you stand out, if you float to the top when the rest of them are doing it poorly for themselves and just spamming everybody and haven't got their profile optimized and they haven't got all these other things, then it definitely helps. And there's a sense of branding, and I still think there's a sense of intimacy on LinkedIn compared to it's not email, it's not Facebook, it's not a Facebook ad popping up in your face. And
Yeah, it's one thing that we've learned is just that to be successful on LinkedIn, like you can't be salesy. Like you just have to, like all of our scripts, we don't make a pitch or a meeting ask until the fourth message. And basically those first three messages are all about starting conversation.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do. We're asking questions. We'll provide some content. We ask a question again off of that. And like asking questions and just trying to do that is just, it's like the core of it. So I even had a customer success call today with a customer. She's like, yeah, like none of these people, they keep going dead. And I look at it and like we get her a lead, and then she would respond and she would just pitch them right away. Like right after she responds. And I was like, yeah, that's, you can't be that salesy. You can't be that forward. You have to like nurture a conversation back and forth a bit and then move it. And it's just like, it's a weird thing, but as soon as you pitch on LinkedIn, if you pitch too early, but basically if the other party hasn't expressed some sort of interest in your services and you pitch, like people just go cold. And so it's a really interesting thing, like where you can have these conversations and people will chat back and forth. But unless they're showing interest, if you just kind of like try to go out of the gate and pitch, then it's just often just kind of the conversation dies right there.
And I think that's true for most marketing, that like too many people try and propose on the first date, and it's creepy. And it's like, don't be that person, because it might work with 1 in 1 million people that you do it with. For the majority, it's not going to work with it. But I think even then, people still probably only wait a couple of dates and then get in there and start trying to convert. And heaps of people follow Gary V these days, and it's like jab, 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 hook, right hook, and it's like offer value, offer value, offer value, offer value before you even ask for anything. And it doesn't have to be the phone call or the sale or anything. It's if I've got 500 people a year emailing me or messaging me through LinkedIn, the people who are going to lose it really quickly are the ones who in their opening message say, hey, I do such and such, great to connect with you. I do such and such. I don't care about you. If you ever need any help with this, please get in touch. You're like,
yeah, you just don't, like you see those and you just know it's blanketed and you just don't message it. And versus like kind of like, so the approach we take is this like very short and sweet casual connection request. Like, hey, saying, hey, so we're like working a similar industry, want to reach out and connect or say hello. And then after that, what we'll do is we'll ask them a question. And we'll say, hey, like for me, ask, like, what's your primary lead generation source? Or we've had other people, ask like, hey, are you guys using Angular right now or anything like that, or in any projects? And just something to like provoke a question or a conversation. And that's the kind of stuff that really kicks it off well. The third message will typically send content and then ask a question. Hey, like I send my LinkedIn article. I have this whole article, which I can actually give you a link to, which basically gives away our tactics and everything. And I give that away and I say, hey, have you ever tried LinkedIn outreach as a form or approach? And again, that starts conversations. And it's only after the fourth one that I make a pitch saying, hey, I think we could help you. Would you be interested in talking more? And so, that's like the approach we take. And it's not salesy. We're just asking questions, trying to provoke those conversations. And that approach tends to work really well on LinkedIn.
That's and I mean it all does, like, having been someone who is on LinkedIn, it I look at the people who have connected with me well and versus the ones who haven't connected with me well, and it's a massive difference in what you were saying. No, like, and trust. It's the fundamentals of any kind of marketing. If I don't know you, I don't like you, and I don't trust you until you've kind of built some rapport and asked about me, because everyone's egotistical deep down. somewhere, and
Yep.
want to be asked about. So no, it sounds really smart. How have you found? Because it sounds like compared to your previous businesses that you've found something that's a lot more scalable in the sense of being able to train people to follow relatively, I don't want to say blanketed, but crafted and set up scripts or systems to follow. Was that when you first started learning and doing all the courses and implementing it for some of your clients and things like that? Were you always putting that in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to create this into a system now that someone can follow, or has it been something that, I need to hire someone now, I'm going to now create the systems?
Yeah, so it was another thing that just in that initial evaluation of the business, I highly considered, can this run without me? Can this be a scalable business? Because the mistake I made before, I mentioned, I had that other kind of scale up for a little bit. We got to like 25,000 and then it all just crashed down. And what happened was I didn't realize how much of what I was selling at that time was dependent on my core expertise. And if I were removed from it, it just was going to crumble and fall. And I didn't realize how much I was doing that. And I thought I'd be able to pull other people in, but it was just way too complicated. And so I looked at this and I was like, this is simple. This is a framework. Like, I'm going to be able to eventually train other people on strategies. So like for the first basically from like day one, I've had a guy that was an assistant with me. And from day one, he basically was running operations. And I was like, hey, I don't want to be sending connection requests. I don't want to be like doing the actual messaging. Like, you handle this. Like, I'll teach you how to do it. And literally within like the first week or two, he was basically handling all that himself. So that was like step one. I was like, okay, I'm out of delivery for the most part. And then the next thing was like how do I get out of like strategy and where I totally am separated from clients. And that took about 6 months to where I eventually was able to hire a sales guy who was like also our account strategist. And that was hard and it took time. It took about 2 months to get him fully trained up and running. But after that, it was like literally 6 months of insanity and me working a crazy amount. And then January hit and we have this guy ramped up full time and he's closing sales on his own, doing strategies on his own, and I'm just kind of approving them. And suddenly I'm just like, whoa, we are signing customers and I don't know who they are. That's like crazy. Like,
That's so
and
cool.
so it was very much intentional, like with that mindset from the beginning. And I think that was some mistakes I made in past attempts at businesses. And then it was just like, how do you basically remove yourself from the areas that you're not good at? Because I suck at customer management. I'm just not good at it. So getting out of those was pretty important.
Yeah, that's I think some pretty awesome learning points in there, because you've obviously had the burn the candle at both ends for stuff all in the early in the video side of things. It's like, it's all well and good, and that's why I asked you initially. It's like the vanity metrics of revenue versus the actual, is it flowing into my pocket and actually making money and putting me in a better financial position. And I mean, that's not the only thing. And then you've had the times where it was all dependent on you and you're a consultant, you're consulting, and then took the eye off the ball there. And I mean, now it's the sense of, okay, you're the conductor of the orchestra and you've got to just make sure that it all hums along nicely, but no kind of one. I mean, I'm sure that's making it sound a lot nicer than what it is some days. But I mean, I think it's really cool to see or hear your transition from where a lot of us start out, and to being able to create something that's, like you say, signing up clients that you have no idea who they are. It's like, putting out a new drink out into the world, and then people start buying it that you've never you don't know where they bought it from. I think you touched on it, but I'd like to know what do you think your best skill is, whether it's a tangible or intangible kind of skill, and what's the one that you're trying to work on the most that you often struggle with?
Yeah, so there's I was actually talking with my team on this earlier, but there's a program called Uniqueability by Strategic Coach. And it's this really good program, and it's the concept of uniqueability is that basically you have something that you are uniquely talented at, that like, and that's where you should be investing your time, because that's what you are really, really good at. And so went through that process, and basically what I learned for myself is that I am really good coming up with ideas and then like immediately implementing and creating those ideas. And just like I love creating stuff.
Yep.
And so that's what I am just want to spend all my time doing. And so what I also learned through that process is that if there is something recurring, like if I have a recurring weekly task, I'm going to fail at it. Like I'm not going to do it. Like I'm just going to see it. I'm just like, and not do it. Like it's just like literally for years, I got frustrated with myself, and I'm like, why do I suck? Because I would like sign these clients on retainers, and then I would like fail to deliver and stuff. And it's like, because I'm setting myself up for failure and not doing it the right way. And like, versus I should have just like sold them on a project, because that's like the way that I'm actually designed to work. And so understanding that's been super powerful for me, and that's like how I've gotten to build myself to the spot where I'm at, because I just keep building things, and then I train or hire someone and put them in that spot. And so I just hop around the business like building new things every day, and I have a blast, and I love doing it. And so that's kind of where my like strength is. And yeah, that's, again, I can't recommend that unique ability process enough. It's literally just years of frustration with myself, and that just gave me complete insight into where I'm really good and strong.
Yeah, I've done a similar one called Wealth Dynamics, and it puts you on a spectrum of like there's introverts and extroverts, and there's creators and stars who are kind of more the marketers, and supporters who shine the light on others, and deal makers and accumulators, and mechanics who create all the systems and things like that on the back end. And he talks a lot about how to kind of create your first team, so you don't want a person who's next to you by 1 degree on the spectrum, because you've got a lot of overlapping skills. And so it's like you go 2 to the right and then another 3 to the right after that. And that's why you've got like kind of the introvert and extrovert covered, the one who loves analyzing the numbers and the one who just goes, I sign lots of people, so numbers should be all good. And they gave me a good insight as well into it. So whatever one you do, we'll link the one you talked about in the show notes at passiveincomeyoung.com. Got to round up as always, and just love to know what book or resource have you found the most impactful? I mean, you've dropped a couple of good books earlier on, but what kind of books have had maybe the biggest impact in the last year, if you're an avid reader, and the one that's had the biggest impact or change in your life?
Yeah, I would say one of the biggest ones I always recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I mainly do that because I believe if more people read that book, the world would be a better place, and with people who don't suck at social skills. So like I can't recommend that for anyone if you've never read it. Super important. Other books in the past year that have been super impactful would be Built to Sell. Obviously, just kind of getting you in that mindset of actually building a scalable company and not just a consulting company. And then Traction by Gino Wickman, which is the whole EOS entrepreneurial operating system. That has been super helpful in terms of just how to actually run a company and like conduct the meetings and convey the vision to the team and all that stuff. So those would probably be some of my top recommendations at this point.
Cool. I haven't heard of that one yet, so I have to add that to my own ever-growing list. But as I said, we'll link all of that at passiveincomeyoung.com. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing about your story and gaining some awesome insights into LinkedIn and I guess your story, because I think that's just had that'll have just as much impact on all of those people maybe out there struggling, doing similar things along the path. You can fast forward it. You can learn from other people's mistakes and learnings and implement it into yours. So I just want to thank you for that and welcome you to the Youngpreneurs family. If people want to find out a little bit more about you, about Lead Cookie or anything, what can they do and where can they go?
Yeah, so I'd recommend go to leadcookie.com. And if you go to the little pop-up there is a ebook where we actually give away our entire process, our tactics, and even our scripts for how we do outreach. So we literally give away everything that we do, and we kind of charge for the done for you service aspect of it. So that's one piece of it, is just go leadcookie.com. And I also do blogging, and I have my own podcast as well at jake-jorgovan.com. So I've got a ton of content there where I write mostly about like sales and business development and experiences growing Lead Cookie and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of content over there as well.
Cool. Well, I'll link all of that at passiveincomeyoung.com. Again, appreciate your time and look forward to following the journey and seeing some people pitching me on via Lead Cookie in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Victor.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.